Can you describe the moment that you guys won the championship?
May have had something to drink and maybe smoked a cigar. I would tell anybody that if you can see it, you can do it.
How did you keep pursuing basketball even with all the setbacks and injuries?
I had no gray matter in my brain. The most important thing is to put yourself at risk. I just wanted to learn about the game from the NBA eyes. And so I spent 2 wonderful years there. Came out of retirement to coach here at CMU because it's that special.
Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Herd, where we sit down with athletes and coaches and dive deep into their personal stories. Today we have a legend here at Mesa again. We have an RMAC Hall of Famer in the room. He also holds 2 national titles as a head coach. He's coached at the Division I level at schools including the University of Arizona, the University of Oregon, St. John's, and his alma mater, Loyola Marymount University in LA. He also has experience coaching at the D2 level, both at MSU and also here, obviously, with the Mavericks. Professionally, he has been a head coach for the Adelaide 36ers in Australia, and also spent a year as a head coach with the Charlotte Bobcats, which are now known as the Hornets. He was assistant coach for the Denver Nuggets, as well as the Milwaukee Bucks, where he has won an NBA championship. All the way from Fairbanks, Alaska, and former LMU Lion, please welcome Coach Mike Dunlap. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and I'm excited to get into your story about all of your travels we were just talking about, and it's going to be such an interesting one.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So we usually just start off with some fun questions just to kind of kick off the podcast. So the first one I want to ask is, I heard that you played baseball in high school. What was your walk-up song?
My walk-up song would probably be Earth, Wind & Fire, September. And interestingly enough, Molly, my wife, it's her favorite tune. And obviously that Earth, Wind & Fire, Isley Brothers, Crusaders, Tower of Power, anything that had a tether to Motown, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Smokey Robinson, I was all in on that stuff.
That's so good, so good. It's a good answer. Okay, what's your all-time favorite movie?
I would say Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn, Look Who's Coming to Dinner. It was well before its time, African-American marrying a Caucasian young lady. Spencer Tracy was pivotal in that movie. And the reason I loved it was a mixed marriage and the conflict at that time of what that presented. And it was a foreboding, if you will. And as a young man watching that movie, it had a great impact on me, and it had a lot of different levels to it. So I love that. And then you have Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford, and that was, shot in Utah, but it was actually Colorado, Utah mountains, and it was about a young man at the time who found solitude because his wife got killed, et cetera, in that, and it was just a journey of finding himself through the loneliness. So I thought that was wonderful. And then the third one, I know you didn't ask for this, but it's a fun fact, is Cool Hand Luke. And the motifs in Cool Hand Luke had a lot to do with authority, and he had a spirit where he pushed back on that. He went to prison, and he gave life and spirit to everybody around him in the prison. He was a rebellious sort. And then there was this thing where society tries to codify you, put you into bowling lanes, if you will, and try and tell you what to do with your life. And he pushed against that all the way through until his death in that movie. And I thought it was just wonderful.
That sounds so good. I haven't seen any of those. But
Oh, yeah, it's well before your time. But they're all very much classics, elite movies. And if you talk to somebody who's a bit of a movie freak like I am, those are stalwarts as far as if you go and you're going to get your film degree. Our eldest has his film degree from Santa Barbara. they'll say all roads lead through movies like that, and, so it's just absolutely wonderful.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add it to my list. Okay, and then the last opening question, since you're a basketball coach, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Michael Jordan, it's not close for me, but I think there's a tilt on generational in terms of that. He's older, obviously, than LeBron, so no disrespect to LeBron. And the other thing is, just in the discussion, it's so fun to have that discussion because sometimes I think the tilt is, if you're left or you're right, is to denigrate one or the other. And I just think they're supreme in their civility, their donations quietly to causes that are important to them, and I think that their citizenship and how they've lived their life is something to be admired. So I don't really get caught up in that, and then you have to go with the criteria. Who's setting the criteria for having a meaningful discussion? Because, for example, if you're just going to go championships, MJ's out of the conversation and Bill Russell is at the very top. And that's a name that some people won't know. But my point is not either or. It's just set your criteria how you're going to have that conversation.
I like that. Okay,
Yeah.
great answer. Okay, but we'll start diving into your story. You grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska. I've had some family members that grew up in Alaska too, and they tell crazy stories about like going out on a run and getting chased by moose or just like other crazy Alaskan stories. What was it like for you growing up over there?
Well, educationally, because it's so remote, they spent a lot of tax dollars on peeling off a layer of young people who got their teaching degree from the Ivy League schools. So, and that was with intent. And so, educationally, it was wonderful because whether it was the first grade or matriculating up that ladder, we're very blessed to have great teachers. Second is because it's a inhospitable kind of environment, either with darkness or cold or both. It's much like Gunnison, in that the weather is unforgiving. So recreation, it pushes that, so they put a lot of their tax dollars into making sure the kids are busy. And so whether it was cross-country skiing or it was a short season in football, baseball, basketball, you had a very competitive environment, and so, that was wonderful as far as that goes. I felt, that in that environment, you were very much loved by the third party, and that would be either your teachers or recreation or your coaches or whatever, so I had great coaches growing up. For example, my high school coach, a very famous guy who played in the in the NBA and Hall of Fame, played for the Clippers, was Elgin Baylor, who or the Lakers rather, but he was one of the best power forwards in the NBA that ever graced the hardwood. Well, the coach that coached him coached me.
No way.
So to have that kind of thing in a remote place like Fairbanks, Alaska, his name was Claire Markey. I was very blessed to have great teachers and great coaches and really very strong parents.
Yeah, that is awesome. Would you say that he's like one of your main mentors as a coach?
Yes, and he's now passed. And along the journey, other people become your mentors. And my college coach became my mentor. He hired me at 21 to work at LMU. And so that kicked me off into another journey. And as an example, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game of basketball, his name was John Wooden. And when I was in the seventh grade, John Wooden flew up to Fairbanks, Alaska to give some awards. And I received that award from Coach Wooden, and then I went to his camp. I received another award when I was a sophomore. And then when I became a graduate assistant at LMU, that coach, Coach Gorgian, put me on the phone with John Wooden and he said, "Hi, Mike, how's Fairbanks?" And he said, "Would you please come down to my apartment in Encino, California, which is a stone's throw essentially away from where LMU's campus is in Southern California." And on Saturdays, I would go down there and he would tutor me
No.
with all of those things that were important about basketball. So I have this Forrest Gump journey
Yeah.
where I just fell into these unbelievable people that shaped me.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, and that
So lucky guy.
potentially you
Yeah.
so young too.
Yeah.
That's pretty inspiring. Yeah, okay, so talking about LMU, what was your experience like as a college athlete? And like how did that translate into just knowing how to coach college athletes and how that's different from professional level and everything like that?
My story is tantamount to a movie that was out called One on One, and Robbie Benson was the star in the movie. And it was about rejection. And so you're coming from Fairbanks, Alaska, and in those days they didn't have letters of intent. And so I had a coach come and recruit me because Wooden's camp was at Pepperdine, and he tendered an offer to play for Pepperdine. So I had a 3-page letter that came from the assistant. And when I walked in there, Pepperdine the year before had gone to the NC2A, and they had essentially their whole team come back. And the head coach, a very famous coach named Gary Colson, told me I didn't have a scholarship, and I was already enrolled in classes. So I fought my way into the tryouts for that team as a walk-on, and I snapped my ankle the first practice.
Oh my
And so that set me back, and I ended up going to a junior college, and that sent me to Loyola Marymount because I was playing with an All-American, and the coach who really wanted him, we were besties, so they offered me a walk-on spot, only because I was passing the ball to get a load of this name, Bruno Marcattulli, who ended up being a star in Hollywood himself later on. But anyway, because we were mates, he said, "Hey, we'll get you a walk-on spot." And so by going there and going through that exercise, I got a scholarship by Christmas time. And then they fired the coach. They hired a new coach, and he took 7 of our scholarships and said, "You guys are cut." And so I just bulldogged my way into some of the tryouts that spring, and it was going in my senior year. And by Christmas time again, that coach gave me another scholarship only because I was brain dead, but I was a very hard player. And so my story is that we went to the NC2As, 1980, and it was the first year that they put the NC2As on ESPN. So my parents in Fairbanks were able to see me play a snippet of that game against Arizona State. So that's my college story.
crazy.
So again, it's a Forrest Gump kind of thing where I just backed into fortune, and then the then head coach and the assistant asked me if I wanted to be a graduate assistant. Of course I did because I love ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And not only fortune, but also your hard work and persistence. How did you keep pursuing basketball even with all the setbacks and injuries and
I had no gray matter in my brain, so I just kept no, I just kept plugging, and I love ball so much that I just didn't wanna take the answer no. And, we ended up winning the WCC that year, and it was an unbelievable story how we won it. We had to beat St. Mary's in the last game of the regular season, and we won it, and that put us in the NC2As. So we went from being a very poor team my junior year to going to the NC2As. So it was something that propelled me into, this is my 46th year of coaching.
wow,
Yeah.
congrats.
So
That's impressive.
as they say, I've got shoes older than everybody here.
That's like double my age.
There you go.
So that's pretty
Always
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So after you were coaching at
Well, let me
LMU, you also went to Australia to coach.
Yeah.
Talk about your time there and just experiences you had and things that you learned from coaching this 36ers.
Yeah, I was at a small D3 school. I had gone through, being at University of Southern California as an assistant for a very famous coach named George Raveling. Unfortunately, he just passed, but he was a wonderful man, wonderful coach. But nonetheless, as I got a knock, it said, "Hey, do you wanna coach at Cal Lutheran?" And so I weaved my way through the interview, got the job, and then I was going over to Australia to do some clinics in the off season. And word got out, and through some very good friends, Brian Gorgian, who's a 7-time coach of the year, a person in the NBL, a famous coach, was the son of Ed Gorgian, the person I worked for. So he invited me over, and he is the catalyst for me getting to interview for one of the top pro jobs there in Adelaide. And I was lucky enough to get the job, and then we moved our family over there, and I coached professionally over there for 3 years. And probably would still be there in one capacity or another, but my father unfortunately passed away, and that had impact because I knew that the extended family never got to see our kids, and they were small, and I said I was being selfish. And so I came back and interviewed for Metro State and got that job.
Okay, gotcha. Wow,
There you
that
go.
was awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Was it hard to just up and move your whole family over to Australia?
It was very hard, but it was hardest on my wife because we had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time. But she was a romantic at heart. I was too. So we looked at Australia as an unbelievable adventure. And by growing up in Alaska, one of the things that leaves you with, indelibly so, is wanting to travel the world. And so we hopped inside a basketball and floated across the ocean. And next thing you know, we were in Adelaide, coaching in a wonderful city, the fans there, the best, and we had a delightful 3 years there before we came back.
That's so cool. We have a lot of Australians on the basketball team this year. Did that have an impact with your recruiting system and everything like that?
Yeah, and part of the national championship, moniker was that those Australians have helped us win those national championships, and so I just continue to keep that network over there and work with Basketball Australia, and have gone over there quite a bit to lecture and do those things, and then selfishly, stay in tune with the young ones so that we could bring them to a program, CMU, and incorporate them into this wonderful university.
That is so cool. And I bet it's just a cool experience for them to get out of Australia and go see more of the world and experience it that way through basketball.
Yes, and we can develop them, and they can go back, and if they're good enough, play in the top level, and that's their dream. And so it's nice to be able to see them mature, but also have the experience of that otherness of classes, faculty, go to a football game for the first time and see that and incorporate themselves into a culture like CMU that's dynamic. And then also is down the road is Telluride, Aspen, and Gunnison, Crested Butte. And so I think that, that scholarship that CMU is providing, I think it's a win-win.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Really cool. I want to go into your professional coaching career. I know that obviously CMU is in Colorado, so we have a lot of Nuggets fans. You coached your assistant coach for the Nuggets for a couple years,
Love it.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You coached under George Karl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you just talk about your time with the Nuggets and things that you learned from him? I know that he's went to University of North Carolina, I believe, right?
He did. He's the Tar Heel, and he'll let you know it. He wears that powder blue as well as anybody I know. And dynamic personality, smart, loyal. And so I was a college coach and didn't know so much about the pros, and I thought it would be like a sabbatical, which it was for me because I went from there to University of Arizona, and I just wanted to learn about the game from the NBA eyes. And so I spent 2 wonderful years there with the Nuggets, and staff, players, the environment of the Denver fan, in particular the Colorado fan, is, in my opinion, second to none. It's that Midwestern feel. They're invested, and they care, just like the Bronco fans, and the Avalanche fans. I just think there's a tint to them that it makes them elite.
I like that.
Yeah,
I agree. I might have bias, but
there you go.
I think
We love our bias.
actually absolutely. And I think that translates over here to Junction too. I mean, the fans that come for your guys' games are just always so excited, so rowdy.
Yeah, 9 years of being on the other side of the line at Metro State. This was the one place that I thought was very much like Hoosierville. It had a feel of Indiana to it, Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan, that like you said, is very special. Our band, season ticket holders, student interest, football team coming in and being rowdy. When we were the opponent, we knew that it was a hard out. It was very tough to come in here and win. So I said, if this job ever opened up quietly, I put it in my pocket as a desire, got lucky, and got the job ultimately, and came out of retirement to coach here at CMU because it's that special.
Wow, that's incredible. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So cool. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned from George Carl, from coaching with him? And
One is be open-minded during the game. Coach Carl's number one lesson was see what the game gives you. It'll always give you two surprises. It could be a mismatch, or vernacular of coach speak, but also is that you have a plan, you're working your plan, but be nimble enough during the game to make changes because those are your best game coaches. So that was the number one lesson I learned from coach amongst a myriad of other lessons, but that's enough. And the other thing is his enthusiasm. He brought an energy to the game that was fun. And then also is that he was loud and proud. And so it didn't take much to nudge me in that direction.
that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How fun. Okay, and then you were also a head coach for the Charlotte Bobcats at the time, now the Hornets. Can you talk about your experience with them? I know that you inherited them at a low time in their season and their career and everything, but
Yeah, they had 7 wins the year before, and the way they worked uh, their team, from Michael Jordan on down is that they had a bunch of young guys, and they wanted them played. And so I was hired specifically because of development and also communication with young guys. And so I came from St. John's to get that job and loved it, and I learned a ton. And if there were 10 mistakes to be made, I made all 10 of them. All right. But the learning curve and putting myself in harm's way, so to speak, was the best thing I ever did. And I learned so much about my own vulnerabilities. But it's okay because I took those lessons and moved on from there. And the NBA is an incredible place.
that's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was an honor to coach there. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. And then recently, your most previous NBA experience was with the Milwaukee Bucks,
Yeah.
and you also, got an NBA championship.
Yes.
Can you talk about that season and that experience and, like, just the difference in that team compared to any other team, to allow them to get that?
Well, one is full credit to Coach Bud, Coach Budenholzer. I knew him when he played Division III, and so he was needing some guidance. I was 31 at the time when he asked the question as a 21-year-old, and because we had some international players, we started writing letters. First, I met him, and he said, "Could I talk to you about maybe going overseas?" So that blossomed into a lifelong relationship. So I retired and was gonna be settled, and he called and tendered an offer, and so I took it, and it was during COVID, and so the season didn't start till December, and so the funny thing is that the championship games where the series was played in July, so 7 months later, we're in a parade with over 350,000 people, and 7 months before that, I was retired. So you wanna talk about dumb luck? Forrest Gump, again, is that, you're in this parade and the appreciation and the gratitude and the community and drawing that. Milwaukee is a wonderful town, but it's blue collar through and through, and so you have that hearty Midwestern flavor to it. And so it was just the coolest experience to be around that. The difference maker was we had a superstar in Giannis and also a bunch of guys that were work hard guys that really liked each other. So I would say the chemistry was the difference, and there was never any jealousy with that group. They just worked hand in glove, so the cliche goes. And if you said, why did you survive the team and win the championship? It came down to the camaraderie and the fact that our leader and Coach Bud came from the Spurs, had 4 rings of his own already. He knew what to do, and so we followed and he led.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I was gonna ask about Giannis and what it was like coaching him and just, like, being around those kinda guys. That
Well, Giannis's background is such that he was impoverished, and there were a lot of people, and his father died as an unfortunate thing. But with people who have abject circumstances, if they can get through it, the humility, the work hard part of their DNA of understanding that it could turn like that if you're not respectful of your opportunities. Well, he was the most gracious star in the NBA and still is, in my opinion, and his wisdom is profound. You know, he and his brother Thanasis were selling sunglasses in Athens in order to sustain the apartment where his entire big family lived. And his love for his mother, his brothers, his sister, I mean, the whole thing, he's never forgotten that. And so, what's indelible as a leader who's gifted is that some of that just comes off his skin. And he humbles the others to work harder, to get along, to go along, and say, "Hey, we can do this together." But there wasn't a better leader or isn't in the NBA than Giannis, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like it, and I'm sure just that love and, like, devotion towards it
Exactly.
carried over so well to his teammates, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's so inspiring
So
to
it's
hear.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Can you describe the moment that you guys won the championship and just emotions involved and everything like that?
Well, the most important thing when you recognize within the last 2 minutes, it was game 6 against the Suns, that you were actually gonna win it. My only concern was to get my family who was behind our bench and up down on the floor so they could experience that and share that experience, and it happened, but it was a fight. We got flooded, as you can imagine,
Oh, yeah.
and so it was like Armageddon to get them. And I fortunately had a relationship with one of the ushers, and my Molly had a better relationship because she talks to anybody and everybody. So she's very friendly, and so they created this little path for our 3 children and Molly to get down on the floor, and we saw the sun rise that morning 'cause they had an unbelievable party at a restaurant on Lake Michigan, and so, may have had something to drink and maybe smoked a cigar in celebration,
So
but we danced and, again, Motown was playing and we saw the sunrise, so we just continued for a 3-day party that was second to none in a respectful way, but we had a great time, yeah. So that was what was on my mind is make sure that your family gets to share in a long journey because you might get that chance once. And so it turned into a parade, it turned into the owners treating us like gold and we ended up even flying to Greece with the entire Bucks team and had a vacation on the owners and stuff like that, where they just got a couple planes and sent the families over to Greece.
that's so cool, and
So
so cool for the families because I'm sure there's so much sacrifice that goes
oh, yeah.
behind the scenes within the families.
Yeah. So that was my concern, and also just thanking management and thanking the team and the players and letting them know that thanks for bringing us along for the ride. So it was quite a bit of fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so to kind of wrap up this podcast, you've already given so much great advice and everything, and like you said that you're so well developed with younger people and that's like your strong suit is mentoring them and everything. But what's one piece of advice that you would give to say like a 20, 30-year-old person right now in the season?
Well, the most important thing is to put yourself at risk. In other words, don't play it safe. You're going to have your fundamentals. Your family is giving you values, but the learning curve is to be a lifelong learner. And so, like with our team, we tell them your basketball life is going to be short, but you take those life lessons and you propel them 50, 70, 80 years beyond that. So we have perspective that those life lessons of how to grind on a particular day, week, month, goals. Sometimes you get knocked back, sometimes you achieve them. But any opportunity that you have that you would consider a fork in the road that's high risk and low risk, I'm a big high risk guy. And I think empirically, by having life's experiences and opportunities, actually, if your mindset is that way, Australia, Milwaukee, Oregon, I was at the University of Oregon, I was at the University of Arizona. I should say we were as a family, our children became lifelong travelers. We were the ones that doubled down and said, let's go over there and put ourselves in a bit of harm's way. I mean, I could have stayed at St. John's or taken the job at Charlotte, lucky duck, but, you know, went ahead and said, let's see if we can put it through the uprights and do that. And even though I was fired by Charlotte, uh, it, it taught us so much, but taught me so much and took a chance. And they took a chance on me. So humbly, I say that the life lesson of having gone through that tenfold taught me way more than had I not done it and said, you know what, that's scary. And so, what I would say to anybody is any chance you have to put yourself in high risk situations, whether it's business or teaching or what have you, or the medical field, do it because it goes fast. And I would tell anybody that if you can see it, you can do it. I'm an optimist at heart.
That's so good. That's so good. I will be using that for my own life and re-listening to that part over and over again in this cool podcast. So,
Thanks.
yes, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing some of your stories. I wish that we had more time because there's so much more that I want to uncover, but
Yeah.
it was so good
You
talking
did a
to you.
great job, and thanks everybody that are behind the scenes. And it's always an honor. It's an honor to coach at this university and have great leadership. And so I'm very, very grateful.
We're so lucky to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.